Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Preston here from Bull City Reader, and welcome to this week's video. Before I jump into this video and tell you what it's about, if you can't tell from the description below, I need to apologize to you. First off, my voice is off. We went to a Carolina Hurricanes game last night, and the refs got yelled at by me. So my voice is kind of not 100%, so I apologize for that. The second thing is the lighting. I'm in an apartment that doesn't have any lights in the ceilings or anything. It's basically your lamps and natural light, and it's raining outside, so the light's probably not the best, so I apologize for that as well. But with all that crap out of the way, let's jump into today's video. As you can tell from the description down below, today I'm going to be telling you about some indie books that I believe are important to the indie community. Again, the indie community is huge. This is just my opinion from the small little group that I was in and covered when I ran my indie blog and my podcast. I mean, I tried to read books in different genres and interview authors in different genres, but I'm a big sci-fi fan, a big fantasy fan. So there's a lot of that, and that's probably what I think most of these books are, honestly. But anyway, these are books and or authors that I feel are important to the indie community. Again, this is my opinion. If you don't agree with me, let me know down in the comments below. That's cool. If you agree with me, let me know down in the comments below. But with all that being said, let's jump into the books. So first up is going to be a book by an author named Nick Cole. I believe I've mentioned him in some previous videos before. But the book of his that I think is kind of important is The End of the World as We Knew It. This is what the cover looks like. So when he released this book, he did something different that a lot of indie authors hadn't done. When he released it, he did tease a little bit that he was working on a project, but he never did any cover reveal for this. He never teased us with synopsises. All of a sudden, one day, he just boom, dropped this book on us. Hey, I just released my newest project. It's out for 99 cents on Kindle. You know, go check it out. So, and then he put a description, or he put the synopsis up. Let me read you the synopsis real quick. It says, in the future, an artist specializing in historical records constructs a piece based on 3 separate accounts of the pandemic. What follows is a patchwork tale of survival and horror as 2 lovers struggle to survive the undying dead and the collapse of an America turned carnal house. Told as memos from Ground Zero and later in the journal of a dark tower-like quest by train and foot across the nightmare landscape of ruined cities and raving corpse, the 3 accounts reveal more than just the grim realities of society's collapse. So that's kind of the synopsis. It mentions on the back, and people talk about that this is kind of The Notebook meets The Walking Dead, which is a really pretty accurate description of the book. It's told, like it says, in 3 different accounts. The first part is told from an audio journal. The second part is told from a journal, and then the third part, which is the shortest part of the book, is told from, I believe, a newspaper article that was never published. One of the reasons why I feel like this is important to the indie community is the fact that he never advertised for this book leading up to its release. And in interviews that he did about this book, he said the reason why he did it is because people want something now. I'm not quoting him, but this is kind of like the summary of several interviews. He said that when people see a cover for a book, when you tell them about a synopsis for a book, they want it now. They don't want to have to wait. They want to be able to go to the store and they want to buy it, which I can tell you is true. I was watching a video today actually, and this booktuber got a book. The book sounded real interesting. I go to Amazon to see if it's out so I can pick it up on my way home at Barnes & Noble. If I can't get it at Barnes & Noble, Amazon Prime, the book doesn't come out till March. So I've had to add it to my wish list on Amazon, hoping that I don't forget to go back and see that it's out. So I kind of agree with him with that. Authors tease books that don't come out. Publishing world, they tease books a year out. But he didn't do that. He just all of a sudden dropped us on it, and it ended up being a very successful book. There's an audio book out with it. So that's why I feel like this is important to the indie community. It's just an example of you don't have to tease people in order to sell. Just drop the book. So anyway, The End of the World as We Knew It by Nick Cole. So the second author I want to mention, I've mentioned his middle grade series in past video. I can't remember which one it was, but I've mentioned his middle grade book. This is a short story that he put out. Here's the story. It's called Stone and Iris by Jonathan Ballagh. The way I discovered this author was a coincidence. I was asked by another author if I wanted to participate. He was doing a release party online for a book that he put out. I said sure. In the giveaways that I did, one of them I got the artist that does his covers gave me the art piece for a book called The Quantum Door that he put out. And he gave me the artwork, a print signed by him. I think also by the author, but maybe it was just him. It didn't have all the words on it. It was just the art. And so that is how I found out about Jonathan Ballagh, is through that. But this is this is a short story that he put out. Even a slow reader can read this book in under 30 minutes. Let me tell you a quick synopsis about this book. So the synopsis for Stone and Iris is, a mysterious breakthrough brings Allison Shaw to the edge of her vanishing world. Everything she knows will soon be gone, everything except the memory of an unlikely friend. But is their bond strong enough for her to hold on to, and is a memory worth living for when nothing else is left? Like I said, it's a short story. If I remember right, the ending of it, I was not expecting the ending that we got. And I also love the way that he writes. This is, I can't remember if this is considered an adult story. I believe it is. It's not really aimed at the YA or the middle grade like his other book. But I really just love his writing, and I just want to read you the first paragraph in this short story. This is the first paragraph, it's chapter 1. Again, this is from Stone and Iris by Jonathan Ballagh. It says, memories are curious things. We mistake them for perfect copies of life, experiences etched in crystal and tucked away for later. But they change on us when we least expect it. A detail is forgotten, and a new reality scabs over the whole. History is scarred, the story reimagined. And the strange thing is we don't even realize it's happening. It just does. He grabbed me from the first paragraph and I read until I finished, and I was not disappointed. I definitely recommend you check out the stories that Jonathan Ballagh writes. I believe you'll like them. So the next author I want to mention to you, for those that know anything about the indie community, it's probably a good chance you've heard of this guy and know of this guy. And he's the reason why people probably discovered the indie community. But the book I want to talk about is Sand by Hugh. So Sand by Hugh Howey is such an awesome world. It's set in the future. I don't want to talk about where it's set too much because I don't want to ruin things for you. Because the stuff that happens in the story just kind of surprised me and I didn't see coming until the layers got peeled back like an onion, I guess you could say. The layers get pulled back and things start to become more clear of what's really happening and what happened in the past. It's just amazing, man. Let me give you a synopsis real quick before I talk a little bit more about it. So Sand by Hugh Howey, it says, the world is buried. A new one has been forged atop the shifting dunes. Here in this land of howling wind and infernal sand, 4 siblings find themselves scattered and lost. Their father was a sand diver, one of the elite few who could travel deep beneath the desert floor and bring up the relics and scraps that keep their people alive. But their father is gone, and the world he left behind might be next. So that's just a quick summary of Sand. One of the things I loved about this story is how he just pulls you in. When he originally put this out, it was put out in 5 short stories, and this is the collection of all 5 in one novel. Man, just the world he created, the technology is amazing. The sand divers that it mentions, they use this suit and the technology with the suit that allows them to go through the sand like it's water, and they're able to maneuver and get down to what they're searching for, and the technology they use to search for stuff is just great. there's parts where I literally felt like I was trapped when I was reading this book. Like I was trapped in the sand or was about to get trapped in the sand with characters. I could feel the pressure coming down on me as I was reading it. This is a book that I did not want to put down. That's why I'm saying this is an important book to the indie community. What's really more important to people is probably his Wool series. I believe the rights for that have been bought. I don't know if, I forget where they're at with that process. If they're looking at a movie or a mini series like on Hulu. I think they should really do this one over Wool. I enjoyed this story a little bit more than Wool. I enjoy the world that he created. Also, I pre-ordered a signed copy from him. And when you pre-ordered a signed copy, since he was an indie author at the time, I believe this has been bought out by a publisher now. This is the indie version that he released, and Wool's been bought. He's just become very popular. But before he blew up, it might be near the time he was getting ready to blow up, he lived in Florida, I believe. He went to the beach, got sand, and sprinkled sand in your book. So you would be reading and all of a sudden like a few grains of, if you were laying down, a few grains of sand would fall on you, or you would find a few grains of sand in the book, and it just fit the mood for the book because like it says, the title Sand, they're surrounded by sand. It takes place in sand. It was just a great touch. So I feel that's why this is important to the indie community. So the next two authors I want to talk about, I feel are doing some very important things for the indie community. The first author I want to talk about is an author named Daniel Arthur Smith. He has his own books out, but he started something called Tales from Canyons of the Damned. There are, I think, 25 or 20 something volumes. He puts them out on a regular basis. This is what the first one looks like. I believe it's the first. I might have these out of order. I can't remember. And I don't have all of them. These are the ones that I have. I know I'm missing some. The reason why I say these are so important to the indie community is he goes and he finds some of the best indie authors that are out there you might not have heard of, or he goes and finds authors that you should hear of, and he puts, I want to say it's like 5 stories in each one of these things. They're really small, they're not really thick. I mean, even some of the later ones as you get to, I mean, they're a little thicker, but it's still something you could read in a day. But he gets some of the best stories, best authors that are out there that maybe you don't know about, and just puts this little collection together. I want to say he releases them monthly. I'm not 100% sure. If you know, comment down below. I forget. I believe it's monthly though. He's putting this out. It's fairly regular, a fairly regular schedule that he's doing. And I just feel like that's so important to the indie community because you're going to find authors and stories that maybe you don't know about or hadn't heard of. And they're just fun stories to read. So check out Tales from the Canyons of the Damned. Daniel Arthur Smith is the author that puts them together. There's a bunch of different authors that write stories for this. Also check out Daniel's books. They're great books and fun reads as well. The fifth and final author that I want to touch on is an author named Samuel Peralta. He did something like Daniel Arthur Smith. He actually did it before Daniel Arthur Smith. Daniel Arthur Smith does shorter volumes. Samuel Peralta put anthologies together known as the Future Chronicles. These are all the ones that I have in paperback. My favorite, of course I'm biased, is the Robot Chronicles. I believe this is the first one that he put out. This one means the most to me. Let me put it to the side. Let me just show you the other covers. This is a collection of some of the best stories from the Future Chronicles. This is the AI Chronicles, where all the stories revolve around AI. You've got the Telepath Chronicles, where all the stories revolve around telepathy. You have the Alien Chronicles. Guess what? They all have to deal with aliens in some sort of way. You have the Z Chronicles. Forget what that's about. I think it's zombie, and that's why it's Z. You have the Dragon Chronicles, where all the stories somehow deal with dragons. You have the Immortality Chronicles, where all the stories somehow deal with immortality. I'm going to hold up my favorite one, though, while I do this. Just like Daniel Arthur Smith, the reason why these are important to the indie community is you're going to find authors and stories, again, that you haven't heard of. And this one you're going to see right here, author's name is W.J. Davies. I had never heard of the author until I read his short story in here. His short story was called Empathy for Andrew. I loved his story so much that I actually reached out to him online and we started throwing ideas out about what could happen if he continued the short story and made it like a novel. And those talks actually led to him publishing a novel. I don't have a physical copy because he didn't release it physical, but it is on an ebook on Amazon. I believe it's not $2.99 for the novel. Let me just read you the description for Empathy for Andrew that basically wasn't here as a short story and became a novel. It says, the Center for Robotic Research takes quality assurance very seriously. Dr. Peter Hawthorne's newest model, the Empathy 5, may finally have achieved true artificial intelligence, the first machine worthy of being called alive. But before these AI units can be certified for mass production, they must undergo intense psychological and emotional trials. After all, when you build a machine, you must try and test it to its very limits, even to its breaking point. That's what the novel is about. It's an amazing novel. Highly recommend you pick it up. But I highly recommend you check out the Future Chronicles that Samuel Peralta put out. He put so much, man, he worked tirelessly on the Future Chronicles. I mean, these things became just so successful. I don't know if he ever imagined that it was going to take off the way that it really did. Man, these short stories are fantastic. So check out the Future Chronicles. You can find them on Amazon. All these books I've showed you, you can find on Amazon. Highly recommend you do. You're probably going to find some stories that you're going to fall in love with. For me, Empathy for Andrew on here was my favorite short story of the year. The novel came out. It was one of my favorite novels of the year. I highly recommend you check those out. So I know I told you this is a top 5, but I want to throw a bonus author in there because I felt like there was one more that needed to be. There's probably more that could be included, but one I want to include is Pennsylvania by Michael Bunker. This is a story, I promise you, you have never read anything like this. Let me just tell you how people tell it to other people, and if this doesn't grab you, then I'm sorry. Amish sci-fi. Bet you haven't seen that in the stores, have you? Let me just read you the synopsis on the back of the book. Jedediah Troyer just wants to start a farm and homestead on some affordable land in an Amish community, but what if the only good, cheap, available land is on another planet? Now Jed has signed up for an immigration program that is intent on colonizing the distant planet of New Pennsylvania. He faces a government agency at war with rebels, the trials of interstellar travel, a shadowy futuristic insurgency on his new planet, and more mysteries than he can count as he tries to fulfill his dream of owning his own farm. Like I said, Amish sci-fi. If that doesn't get you enough to check it out, I don't really know what does. I believe the options for this were bought as well. When he put it out, again, like Hugh Howey, it was 5 parts. And then this is the collection of the 5 parts. I believe it was 5. I have them down here behind me. But anyway, I believe this is another important book to the indie community. Like I said, there's so many books that you could include in this list. Andy Weir's The Martian started out indie. Started out on a blog, I believe. Look where that blew up at. You have other authors down here. Jason Gurley, who is now, he's gone from indie to being traditionally published and having book deals. I mean, there's just my bookcases that you can't see over here. All of these are like indie books. Most of them are indie books. I have indie books on the floor. I mean, I've got them all over the place. There are so many great indie books out there that you should definitely check out. Definitely worth the read. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and comment below. Let me know what you think of any of these books. Have you heard of them? Are there any other books, if you've read indie books, that you think are important to the indie community? Comment with all that down below. Like I said, if you disagree with me, that's cool. Let me know what you think are some of the most important books. Like always, guys, don't forget to subscribe. I'll do the little pop-up thing here. I'll also do a little pop-up thing right here where you can go check out another video that I've put out that YouTube says that you will enjoy. So go check those out. Until next time, guys, keep reading, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!